Hello and welcome to Antinatalism this week. 9th April was the International Antinatalism Day, and we had quite a few posts and entries by our fellow antinatalists about this day. Lawrence posted about the ways to help charities that help people with contraception, as well as the institutes that help animals. Shashi Antinatalist posted a photo of her book on antinatalism in Hindi, explaining who and what antinatalists are. Antinatalist, that's the name of the channel, made a short talking about the International Antinatalism Day and also talked about some new books about antinatalism that have been published recently. Myonsky Theatre is a channel by Asya and Barsik who post interesting antinatalist animations. They posted about International Antinatalism Day and also shared printable antinatalist games which they claim you can play while you poop. This is a printable PDF available on their coffee page. Danny Shine, who goes by the channel of Social Experimentalist, hosted a live session, obviously talking about antinatalism. So, happy International Antinatalism Day, everyone. And now, Cambridge Quarterly Healthcare Ethics is a journal by Cambridge University Press, and their upcoming issue will be on sentience and its ethical implications. So, of course, this topic will be of interest to antinatalists, specifically sentiocentric antinatalists, as well as vegans and animal rights people. The issue is yet to be published, but Mati Hairi and Tuya Takala have written an editorial introduction to the issue. From that, we come to know that the issue will be a dense collection from writers like David Benatar, Karima Kirma, David Lawrence, Oscar Horta, Jonathan Leighton, Amanda Suknik, Masahiro Morioka, among others. It starts with two Peter Singers. A while back, Mati Hairi interviewed AI version of Peter Singer and sought the opinions of actual Peter Singer on it. We have covered that interaction in the past episode, but this issue starts with the focus on utilitarianism and sentientism. That is the theme of this issue: what it means to be sentient, why it matters, and how our understanding of it should guide practices, policies, and ethical reasoning. Sentience is not a binary subject. I mean, there are many organisms for whom you can't just have a yes or no answer to the question of whether they are sentient or not. It's easy for animals like us or like a cow to decide whether it is sentient or not, but it is not easy for organisms like small worms, clams, and so on. So, sentience is more of a spectrum or a range of degrees, and so a lot of ethical questions come up when we are dealing with organisms which sit on the boundary of sentience. Mati and Tuya refer to a research experiment using one of those worms as the subject of testing. So, this is not a thought experiment. It's actually happening research work on these beings for whom it is difficult to decide whether they're sentient or not. And so, the subject of sentience is neither a marginal nor a settled concept, but a central and dynamic category in ethical reflection, one that compels us to reconsider how we value life, address suffering, and imagine our responsibilities across species and technologies. I don't really know when the actual issue is going to be out, but I'm very much waiting for it considering the authors who are contributing to this. In another journal from the University of Bucharest was an article Nietzsche as a missing link between Schopenhauer and Chiron by Stefan Bolia. As the title suggests, it tries to link three philosophers, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, and Chiron, through the thread of nihilism. Nihilism is a bunch of philosophical values which question assignment of any values or meaning to any aspects of our lives. For example, existential nihilism would be a view that our existence does not hold any value, neither positive nor negative. In other words, it does not really matter whether we exist or not. Moral nihilism, which does not necessarily follow from existential nihilism, is a view that it does not matter how we behave, what our morality should be, and what we should value and disvalue. But here in this article, Stefan categorizes nihilism slightly differently, in that he distinguishes between passive nihilism and active nihilism. Both are rejections of existence, but passive nihilism comes from depressive perspective of existence, whereas the active nihilism may be understood as a creative destruction. Passive nihilism is the first no. This is the most pessimistic stage. Existence on this view is seen as a mistake or a burden. Death becomes a kind of relief, and birth becomes morally questionable, which is very close to antinatalism. It stems from Schopenhauer's writing, from Buddhism, and from pessimistic schools of thought. This nihilism carries a tone of exhaustion, resignation, and depression. Stefan says that this kind of nihilism anticipates modern antinatalism. The second type, or the second no, or second rejection, is active nihilism. This is where Nietzsche moves beyond Schopenhauer and towards CIORAN. If life has no meaning, then destroy old values and create new ones. So, this type of nihilism accepts the meaninglessness of life, but instead of just resigning to that meaninglessness, it asks us to break the current meaningless structures and to build new meanings. This is creative destruction. It has some energy behind it, a force and goal of rebellion. The part of destruction is where Emile Cioran comes in. He almost glorifies destruction and sees annihilation as meaningful. But there is also a yes hidden underneath this second no, and that is existentialism. Stefan says that existentialism is opposite of nihilism. Nihilism is life judged through death. That is, if you're going to die, then what's the meaning of life anyway? Existentialism says that death gives meaning to our lives. The finitude of our life is what makes us get up and do things. But and this is where there is a twist in the tale. Stefan thinks that there is yet another no hidden underneath this yet another yes. That urge to build meaning might just be a coping mechanism against the lack of meaning. Now, I find all of this a little too confusing to understand, and that's why I rather prefer David Bennett's structure of cosmic versus terrestrial meanings when it comes to meaning of life. There was an article praising Sarah Diarna's book about antinatalism. Her book was published last year and it is in Italian language, and the title of the book translates to "It's the Birth That Wasn't Wanted, History and the Theory of Antinatalism." Sarah has appeared on the Exploring Antinatalism podcast as well as The Dissenter and is openly an antinatalist. This article, Better Not to Be Born, a philosophy for these years of demographic freeze, in La Provincia, praises Sarah's book and talks about different pessimistic thinkers from ancient Greek to modern day antinatalists like David Benetta. The ideas presented in Sarah's antinatalism are put up against the Italian background from which Sarah comes, a country which is facing one of the lowest fertility rates. So it was nice to see something which bridges the gap between philosophy, which is what Sarah's book is about, and everyday world events like fertility rates in Italy. Now, some notable videos. There was a discussion between Mehta Ethics on his channel and a vegan animal rights activist about antinatalism. Mehta Ethics has gone from being an antinatalist to not being one, to being agnostic about the subject. So he is open and closed to antinatalism at the same time, much like the state of Hormuz today. He makes some controversial claims in the discussion, like humans should procreate so that the number of wild animals are reduced, and that's for the sake of suffering of wild animals. So he seems to be an antinatalist, at least for wild animals. Another claim is he thinks that in his lifetime there will be a vegan world and that only vegans should have children, although it is not clear if he ever will have any children of his own despite being a vegan. He is disillusioned by Benetta's asymmetry and thinks that the argument is really bad. He even tried to ask this to Benetta himself in person, but was not convinced with the answer that he got. It was an interesting hour-long casual discussion, which I listened on an increased speed. On another news, All Skeptic is a good antinatalist channel who makes interesting antinatalist videos, which are not usually appealing to pessimistic emotions. He was invited to debate Andrew Wilson. The whole discussion is more than 2.5 hours long, and I could not watch it full. But it is available on Modern Day Debate channel. I'll include the link of that in the description. Now, these days, more and more people are talking about antinatalism on YouTube. New small channels are starting and they bring about different topics about antinatalism in different languages and different perspectives. One such channel is Beyond Ordinary, who posted a short about antinatalism in Hindi. It shows what looks like a working class middle-aged man who is not happy with his life and leads to the argument of antinatalism. Even though I would argue on the larger point that he's trying to make, I disagree with some of the details. One, you don't have to have a depressive attitude towards your individual life to see antinatalist arguments. You can lead a happy and content life while being an antinatalist at the same time. The second part I will cover together with yet another Hindi video by Narad Flix. He too makes good points about antinatalism, and it is refreshing to see medium sized channels also jumping onto the antinatalist train. However, both these videos make a crucial mistake of emphasizing affordability of having children. They say that you should not have children if you can't afford to give them good food, education, and so on. That I think is a dangerous line to take, and I would refrain from doing it, even though there is a paper on this topic by David Benatar. Maybe we can go deeper into this some other day. But for now, these were the stories for this week, and as always, thanks for watching.